Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. It is Monday morning for you, but a Saturday special for us. I am here with the one and only Robert Quindaro, a very talented musician, man of many parts. I've come to realize, didn't realize he was an electrical engineer working in Silicon Valley, right next to Facebook studio. I don't know if that's true. But Robert, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I've dabbled in this podcast a few times.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It's actually now that I work from home all the time, it's like you have to fill your day with some type of media. So and there's just so much stuff out there. So I kind of grab stuff from all over. But it's no doubt this one has been on the list. I
appreciate that, man. Thank you. I wanted to start this episode off, you being a musician. That's how we actually met, is you were running a music mic. And I didn't even know you were a musician at first. I just thought you were an audio producer. And then Marley, shout out to Marley. She was like, you need to check out his stuff. And I checked it out. And it's amazing, man. You are very talented as a musician. And you're God's gift to the world.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Grandma.
Yeah, I know. So ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, Robert is going to introduce his song and play a song to start the podcast.
Yeah, so I figured, a lot of people have been asking me, you've had so much downtime. Have you been writing a bunch of songs? It's like, no, it's a pretty depressing time. And it's not really that fun to write when you're just sad.
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, even though my songs are sad. So
yeah.
This one's not a sad one, but I wrote it a little while ago. It's kind of, I don't know about the ending yet, but I was kind of thinking about kind of how you try to not be your mom or your dad or whoever. And then at some point you just like say something and you're like, oh, damn, that's what my mom would say. Yeah. So that's kind of what this song is kind of about.
I love it. What's it called?
I think it doesn't have a for sure title, but I think The Story Out Loud, I think is so far what the title is. I don't think sounds like a book, but that's what we're going with. The Story Out Loud.
Okay.
All right, let me switch my mic actually before we do this.
There's a woman inside of me, coming out as I get old, like sunshine after cloudy days, like a rainbow from a storm. I feel her words fall out of my mouth every time that I speak. She makes me unafraid to write and unafraid to sing. There's a man inside of me, coming out as I get old, like a fiddle through the mountain air, like a steam drain through the coal. I feel his tears building into my eyes every time that I smile. He makes me unafraid to build or break down and cry. There's a child inside of me. It fades away as I get old, like the scars on my knees and hands, like the anger I used to hold. I feel his dreams filling up my heart, and I hope I make him proud. But the man, the woman, the child, I'm their story out loud. I'm their a story out loud.
Oh yeah,
Bro, that is an amazing song.
Let me get my own microphone. That one's not quite as sad as my usual song, so it's a good. I don't think I've never actually performed that one for anybody, so that's a debut.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, you guys should feel lucky. That was amazing, honestly. I almost teared up in the third verse. That is just so, dude. This is why I love, like how we met at Leashless Brewing. Shout out to Leashless. You ran a music mic and were nice enough to let comedians come, and as long as we played nice, we were allowed to perform. But there's something about music, and when you hear a sentence that just resonates on a different level, and it's just like, it means so much different stuff for different people, you know? And that's what I got from the first line of the third verse.
Yeah, I wrote the first two a while ago, the first two verses, and then it was like, where am I going? I only have one mom and one dad.
Yeah.
And I don't write a lot of like completely autobiographical songs. Like everything has a tinge of like yourself in it, but you know, I tend to stick to like I'm a fiction writer of songs, generally. This one like is more or less like, you know, like my dad's an emotional guy. My mom loves quotations. It's like, that's where we're at. So I kind of like wrote the first two verses a while ago and I was like, how am I going to wrap this up?
Yeah.
Which is the mortal enemy of writing songs. Is like, I have one or two verses to like a million songs. It's like, well, where's it going? I don't know. So I kind of wrapped that one up not that long ago. And I thought, you know what? That's not bad. It's not bad. So might as well start playing it.
You made an interesting point about how everybody thinks that with downtime, it's every artist's dream to have downtime. Oh, now I can finally do this. But it's like, it's almost counterintuitive, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not, it's like you give an artist like 3 days, they're going to wait till the last 10 minutes and probably do something in the last 10 minutes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, and it's a weird time anyway. And I feel like at least in my creative process for songwriting, like there's a lot of up and down, and you write a bunch for 6 months, then you don't write for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's kind of part of it. But I feel like I was kind of in like a non-writing period pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic started and it's like, oh, what am I going to do? I guess I'll start to write songs. And I tried and just like wasn't vibing it. So I was like, what else am I going to do? I'm going to learn how to host online things, and I'm going to learn how to use this mixer, and I'm going to buy a mandolin. I'm going to do all the other musical things that aren't writing songs. Because the cool thing about a song is once you write it once, you can just play it over and over and over again. Yeah. And so like, you know, in reality, like I could keep playing songs on podcasts and just do the same songs. Right. So, but I've kind of in the last couple months kind of got back into the groove a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's not what people think. People think like, oh, empty time. You probably wrote 1 million songs. Like, I wrote like 4. Like it was just not a very productive songwriting year for me. I like feel like when I was really busy, I wrote like 1 million. But yeah, it's
kind of almost like, I feel like with creative outlets, you almost have to live life and soak up life to get the inspiration to write songs and to come up with new bits. Like that's how it is with comedy a lot of times, is it's through living and seeing a weird, if you're observational, something happen and you're like, oh, there's something in that. But it's like, man, it's like when you're just waking up, wash, rinse, repeat, getting coffee, I'm working from home, I'm doing this. It's just like there's not really that oomph to really, you know.
There's no inspo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like, I think people, think assume with any kind of creative stuff, like it's inside of you. It's like, no. I feel like when I go out and talk to people, like people speak so poetically and they just don't know it, that like, I'll be like just on a bus, someone says something and it's like, that's a very good line. That could be like the hook of a song. And you said it in passing on a bus. So I like write it down on my phone. And just never credit that poor man that hook. But like, there's a lot. Like I have a whole thing of like, thank God. I don't know how people do this. Probably they brought around notepads before there were cell phones. But like, I have a whole list of just things like you overhear in conversation, or you just think in the middle of the day, and it's like, all I do is work from home and like go on bike rides. You know, it's like I don't converse. I haven't conversed with people in so long that it's like I'm like awkward now. I see anybody. I made some weird joke to the cashier at. I was buying an Asian pear at Sprouts.
It's already funny.
Yeah. So and she was checking out and she was kind of looking at it, like trying to find the label or whatever. And I was like, isn't that the biggest apple you've ever seen? And she like looked at me and she was like, this is an Asian pear. I was like, okay. So we're not being funny today. I get it. But like, yeah, I just don't know how to interact with people anymore. So it's hard to get that.
Was it with the mask?
It was with the mask.
See, that is a filter as well, because I am someone who tries to interact with everybody at cashiers, everything. You lose all the delivery with no mask. And I'm like trying to be weird. And I'm like, well, now I'm just look creepy, you know?
Yeah, I can't do, I don't have smiles. I'll say that.
Yeah,
it's
tried
all in my lower face.
I started reacting to winking in the beginning, where like I would just be talking and then I would wink. And then I'm like, oh, that's probably kind of weird that a guy's just winking at, you know, a cashier or something. And it's just,
winking's a fine line. Like if you're either one side or the other, and it's very creepy or very okay. Like when my grandma winks, it is so fluid that I'm like, I feel loved.
She sees it.
Yeah, she's good at it. I'm like, I do it. And it's like, whoa. Yeah. That dude just winked at me and like, I'm at Sprouts. Like stop winking at Sprouts.
Yeah. And there's like, if you hold the stare too long after it gets weird, you have to be very fluid with it. You know, it's an art form.
It's a new form of communication. What I think some people have gotten good at, like, you know, think people do like wave a little bit more. I try to say hi to people when I'm on like walks. Everyone's on a walk right now. But sometimes people are nice. Sometimes people are just like in their zone. Right. So it's,
I deal with people who, if I'm not wearing a mask outside, sometimes they get angry at me. Like if I'm just walking my dog and I don't have a mask and they just like go across the street and walk, and I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm just, you know.
It's hard. I know. I feel like as a scientific person, like I understand if I am biking to work and I don't have a mask on and there's nobody around me, like the chances of me infecting somebody are tremendously low.
Yeah.
The odds are low. However, if I have one around my neck, or sometimes just on, it's like, at least it like shows them that like I'm kind of with them. Yeah. But I feel like I'm always unsure about it. Like, do I wear it when I'm biking in the middle of nowhere? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah,
like,
no. There has to be a line where it's just like, we need to be like, okay, well, we don't have to wear a mask if we're outside and we're doing this. If we're in a crowded area, you know, maybe, but
I think we're learning more about everything. But obviously people wear masks a little more up here than they do in Ventura.
Really?
I've been back and forth the whole pandemic basically, and it's like people like have a mask on in a car up here, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, you're alone in a car. But I also think maybe they just got in the car with their mask on and it's on all the time. Like people operate their whole day with a mask. Like, you're in a car, like what's it matter?
Yeah, I like to think that they just forgot it's on. I don't like to think that they are just like, well, time to drive. I'm leaving the house. Let's put it on. I'll take it off when I get home.
Yeah, it's now at this point I have like 800 masks. So I think at some point I will say I've been like going on runs, and it's like, it's cold up here in the morning. Sun's not out yet. The mask is fantastic. My nose and my lips are warm. Yeah, that might be something that stays for me.
I actually like the people wearing masks when they're sick. There's nothing that bugs me more than because I do jujitsu, so it's very close contact. And there's nothing that bugs me more when someone goes to a gym or very close quarters and they're full on sick. Like they got that nasty productive cough that you can hear it from hell. You're just like, oh, and they're like, I'm not contagious anymore. I'm like, dude, you are still so contagious. Like,
yeah, you're not a doctor. You don't know.
Yeah. And like, I just hope that some kind of like awareness of like, oh, I'm sick. Maybe I shouldn't be in such close quarters. I hope we keep some of that.
Yeah, I know they were all worried about the winter flu kind of being like an extra burden on the whole healthcare system. I heard this thing a few weeks ago that was like, yeah, there's been like you know, dramatically lower like flu illnesses in hospitals, and it's like, well, that's how contagious coronavirus is. Like, we're protecting against that a little bit, but like the normal flu is like just not happening because nobody's seeing anybody and nobody's wearing masks all the time. Like, what a fantastic thing!
It just didn't show up.
I hope it stays too. I don't mind. I think at this point, like, we're all, at least in California, like, I can't say this about like Iowa, but like we're used to the mask. Like, I'll wear a mask if I'm sick next time. Like, plus I have all these cute masks. What am I going to do after we can't wear them anymore?
I know, man. It's going to be like Pokemon cards. Maybe one day they'll become valuable, you know?
Our kids will like them. I saw someone's post about I can't wait to have a roaring 2020s party where everybody just wears masks. It's like, I don't know about that. That might be too soon.
Yeah. It's been crazy, man. You mentioned earlier that you moved up to San Jose. I had no idea that I honestly thought, because I know you had worked with audio production. Obviously, we met at an open mic, and I just thought you're an audio producer, like you did audio engineering and everything. But you told me that you're an electrical engineer.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm an audio engineer, but not the kind that records music.
Yeah,
the kind that designs music recording equipment, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like I kind of eat, sleep, and breathe audio. Like wake up to music, work in audio, do like live streams and do open mics and perform and everything. And then listen to music again as I fall asleep. So it's a little bit obsessive. Like some people like to separate their work and their hobby. But for me, it's just the day, like all day long. So yeah, I started out when I was in Ventura, actually. So I'm not from California originally. I moved to Ventura like 5.5 years ago.
Okay.
From after college, to work at like a high-end audio company that makes like tube stereos. Like
tube stereos.
So like, do you know what a transistor is? You've heard of transistors. Mm-hmm. Before transistors, there was tubes, like in tube televisions.
Yeah.
So transistors or tubes, like in the early 1900s, were like how radio was broadcast. It was the only way to amplify an electrical signal.
Okay.
That in a transformer.
Yeah.
And then in like the 1940s, these people invented bipolar junction transistors. And then in the like 50s, some other people invented MOSFET, which is another kind of transistor. And those guys like won a Nobel Prize in science. Like it was such a big thing. So just for context, like your phone has millions of MOSFETs in it, millions of transistors, millions and millions and millions. And they just etch them into etch them into your phone, and that's how they work. Tubes are like the size of a pill bottle. I have two, but they're inside the amplifier right now.
Yeah.
I can take them out. But they're like the size of a little pill bottle. And that's like one transistor. So like, that's why like a tube television, there's some of those in the back, and old stereos are very large and they get really hot. It's like over the last 100 years, it's just like come and like this, I'm excited for this decade because it's the 100th year anniversary of radio being like the 20s were the radio revolution. Right. So like all sorts of cool stuff going on with that. But like, so I was like working at this company that made like hybrid tube amplifiers. And the only thing tubes are used for in 2021 are audio. Like they sound nice on guitar amplifiers and for music amplification. Yeah. It's just like a warmer sound. Yeah. It's actually what I was playing through too when I was performing. So
you got a Neumann over there? UA7?
With the headphones or the amplifier? The mic? Yeah. My mic is actually, this is a Ear Trumpet Labs mic. It looks like a piece of like plumbing equipment kind of. Yeah. So that's a cool little company that like make like pretty reasonably priced mics. Admittedly, I've deconstructed mine to see how it was built. It's called a lollipop mic, right? Is it a lollipop? Yeah. And they have these other ones that actually like suspend it in the middle, which I think are kind of cool. They're kind of like condenser mics in my opinion. They're just so fun. Yeah. So, I this was designed as like kind of high end, like very niche audio products. Yeah. For like 5 years. I have one now, which is the only way to acquire an $8,000 amplifier is to design it yourself and eventually acquire it. Cause I can't afford that. So then, that kind of slowed down. Like no one was buying high end audio products during the pandemic. And I was kind of been looking for jobs otherwise, new jobs and stuff. And it's like if I want to stay in audio, like electrical engineering, it's like a lot Bay Area and just like in random locations. So I had interviewed like in North Carolina, at Moog, the synthesizer brand, which would be awesome. That was a really cool interview. And just kind of like I wanted to do some type of audio thing. And then like the pandemic started, and I had gone on an interview up to San Jose, like the week before everything shut down. Yeah. Like to the degree that like when I got back the next day, they were like, oh, somebody like 5 employees of San Jose airport tested positive. Oh, it's like, shit. And I was like, did I test positive? Because that was the point that everybody thought everybody was getting infected constantly. It was and everybody was going to die. Yeah. It was like a very scary time. Right. So I can't say if I did or not, but I don't think I did. But so I got this job offer and it was like, yeah, sure. I'll start in maybe April. Just like at the point where I really need to pay off my student loans, like, let's just go make the big bucks for a little while. Yeah. Change of scenery with like design more modern audio products. And then it was like, guess I can't start in April because things are still shut down. Like, let's just postpone it for a few months. So then I didn't actually start till like late July. So I just kind of hung out in Ventura. I was still working and everything for like the first half of the pandemic. And then late July, I kind of just did the weird pandemic move up here. I have studios. This is a converted garage. This is pretty much you're seeing the whole thing.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. And so then started doing that. And I go back and forth, like all my family and stuff's in Ventura, my crew.
Yeah.
So like I'm back and forth pretty often. I was back a couple weeks ago. So like not a big deal for me to commute back and forth. It's a pretty easy drive. But been working up here, getting to do a lot more fast paced, like consumer electronics, audio stuff, a lot more like digital, and like recording in terms of like Alexa kind of stuff. Like everything has a microphone on it these days, and most companies don't know how to design audio. So they just like hire like the company I'm working for now. They're like, hey, can you guys just do the audio? Like I was doing the audio yesterday on a trucking product. And I was playing a simulated semi truck changing gears really loud, and then having a simulated voice speaking at this device. And it was supposed to be able to like squash the truck noise.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a strange world in audio engineering, but
so you're the guy that goes in and plays the TV and then also gets the audio levels right to where someone can say, Alexa, order shampoo at the same time, and it's like able to filter the TV versus someone's voice.
That is one of the things that we do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which is in everything these days, right? And to get when you go buy like a Bluetooth speaker, if it says Bluetooth logo or it says Alexa or it says Google, you have to meet a certain spec to do that. Mm-hmm. You can just you could design a product and just put a microphone on it and have it work with Alexa. But if you want the Alexa stamp of approval, you have to meet certain qualifications. So we have to go in and kind of make sure these things are actually, and the truth of the matter is a lot of things are designed in China and they like kind of just come back and they're not quite up to spec. So then they come back to us in the middle of the design process, like help us. And then we kind of tune it in a little bit. So then I've been working on some Peloton stuff too, which is a good company to be associated with right now.
Especially right now.
Home fitness is booming. So I got to work on some Peloton, some of the future Peloton products, which is kind of exciting. So we have a Peloton bike at work, and I just sometimes I'm in a Zoom meeting and I'm just like spinning. And I will admit, it's no offense to Fitness 19, but the Peloton bike is significantly nicer than the bikes they have.
Really?
Yeah, it is nice. It is like heavy, smooth. So
I have an exercise bike, and I just found it next to my trash can during the pandemic, and I just a little bit of hand sanitizer on it, and I would like to get a Peloton. So the girl that lives in the house that I live behind says she got one. She was using like an exercise bike with the app. I guess you can just buy the app, which seems way more cost effective than the bike is expensive. So, but yeah, it's pretty fun stuff. Totally different than like the high end audio, like amplifier kind of stuff. Yeah.
But it's people used to always be like, Robert designs speakers. I was like, no, I don't design speakers. I design amplifiers. But now I design both. So now they're right.
What would be the ideal job within audio engineering that you do?
For me, I would love to design like pro audio stuff, like condenser mics or mixers and stuff. Because my last job being it was like all analog, and all like transistor based. I'm like a weird expert in like old transistor technology. So like now I'm learning this newer stuff, like using codecs and everything like that and doing DSP. But like, I feel like at some point I'd like to go back to like when you take this mic apart, there's just little transistors. It's like a pretty simple circuit. It's just like transistors, like it's just a little buffer. And like, I would love to, that's why I took it apart. Like I would love to design my own like condenser mic. Because like with this brand specifically, like it's not that expensive. I think it's $600 for this mic. And like condenser mics can go, like if you want a nice condenser mic for the studio, like I'm doing a decent one, like they can be expensive, right?
Oh yeah, baby. I got that.
Vanguard
audio.
Exactly. They get expensive. And so this one's not that expensive and the electronics aren't too bad, but they just made a cool design. And I've seen like Elvis Costello had it on stage, like all these musicians just like have it on stage with them as like a live mic. And it's like, what a cool idea. Like instead of making it like the nicest quality, make it a good live mic. Make it look cool, right? Like get a little bit of industrial design in there. So I feel like doing some kind of like guitar pedal or like condenser mic stuff would be kind of fun and DIY. And the real dream is when you go to a farmer's market or a craft fair. Ventura has them all the time.
Yeah.
And there's people selling soap, and there's people doing like art stuff and food and whatever. It's all crafty. No one's ever there with like electronic art. Like this, if you were there with this, no one would question it, right? Look how beautiful this is.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, there's a lot of musicians that like, if you saw this somewhere, you might think about it for a few months and you keep seeing it and you're like, you know what, I'm going to get one of those for when I perform live. Right.
Yeah.
Like it'd be kind of cool. Or like, cause there's some couple other companies that make vintage looking mics. And like, that's like, when you watch Miss Maisel, like that isn't an old microphone. That's a new microphone that looks old.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it works. So there's it's like, I would like to do something like that. It's a little bit like niche. But you got to kind of get the student loans paid off and get up to speed before you do all that. But
there's definitely because I started off doing music and I still love doing music, and I've dove down the rabbit hole of analog versus digital. And then I don't know, he's kind of legend on the internet, but this guy Vince with Audio Pros, have you ever heard of him?
I do not know that.
He does the craziest mods on old microphones. So he could get like a
mods
B2.
Are cool.
Yeah, he could do like a B2 Behringer. And he literally, I remember I paid for consultation with him on the phone, and we talked for like 2 hours. He literally just ranted for 2 hours in a good way about how all microphones are pretty much the same when you open them up. And there's little tweaks and there's little things you can do that can make a $150 microphone sound like a Neumann, like a $8,000 microphone.
Yeah.
And it's just always that debate, is that the old ones sound a little bit warmer, but it's like you can get the digital to sound, similar, if you just tweak some things. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think like that's all. So like I kind of came from the world of like kind of audio, like analog purists, but me not being able to own any of the analog purist products.
It is a cult, the analog purist.
It is a cult, yeah. And I have, you can't see it. Like I have like a stereo, like an $8,000 stereo that like I didn't pay for, but like really nice stereo, nice speakers, a turntable. Like I have a pretty nice setup. And I have pretty decent audio gear, but I also have a Sonos like home speaker. Yeah. Because like I don't want to. My stereo is like 40% efficient. Like I'm just like, you can't be an environmentalist and own high-end audio gear. That's a statement. Like it's just impossible. Yeah. So you have to own digital stuff sometimes, right? For convenience. But also like this, like I'm going in the computer with like a PreSonus audio box right now. Like some of the digital stuff, like you can get pretty decent Alesis effects. And like, if that's working for you, it's fine. Yeah. Reality is most people listen to stuff on their iPhone speaker.
Dude,
like, if you wanted to use a really nice mic and record really nice, like it should be played through a nice stereo or a nice, like, get a Sonos or get a Bose speaker, right? Yeah. You're using your Fry's off-brand Bluetooth speaker. Like it's just not going to be the best. So in reality, like if people could do, like I think in overall in audio, it doesn't really matter. It's just whatever's going to work for you. But like as far as like going digital, as soon as you go digital, just stay digital. Like the real problem is when you go back and forth, you start to hear that. But I feel like people are always like very opinionated. And it's like, if someone like loves their digital guitar, their Spider 2 guitar amp, like why are you with your Fender Twin Deluxe like being salty about that? Like let them like get their freaky distortion, and like there's a lot of cool things. You can make cool sounds on that amplifier. Like they're not trying to be Jack White. So like just chill.
So for you, like the ideal way that you listen to music, like me personally, I always like giving music and like an album I was waiting for. It's 100% focused late at night. I'd put the headphones on and I'd listen to it in entirety. Do you have like your own ritual and like most ideal way of consuming something in like not a festive way, but like ritualistic of like, this is the way I listen to music when I want to listen to it 100%.
Yeah, I feel like I do. I'm a pretty big like car listener. Like if I want to listen to an album, if you have a 40-minute drive, put on an album. You're only driving. Like as much as people want to admit they're good drivers, like you're pretty zoned when you're driving. Yeah. I've listened to songs for the first time driving before that like make you want to cry, and you're just in the car alone driving. I don't drive as much anymore. I bike to work now or work from home, so I'm lacking a little bit in that department. But I do like I'll sit down like in front of the stereo and listen if I'm trying to listen. Like like a new Jason Isbell album comes out, something like Songwriter album, something that I'm really like gonna be like trying to tear apart to some degree.
Yeah.
And like, just like, it's something I want to fall in love with. I'll just sit down and listen in front of the stereo. And it's like, yeah, like usually in the evening, like once everything's over, the day is done. I feel like I also have like that part of my life that's just like wants like background music.
Yeah.
And that's more like throughout the day, there's podcasts, audiobooks, music just running through my stereo and stuff. So yeah, I think a lot of people don't put the time in to sit down and listen to anything either. And I think like you get more out of it, right? Listen to the words. Some of these people actually put a lot of effort in some of this stuff. And you know, it's, to me, like that's the most, like, that's like my like religion is like seeing music and listening to music. It's like, let's go listen to this, what this person's writing. And like that kind of, it's just like is spiritual for me. So
that's so true, man. And that's one thing is, I probably started listening to more live music. I probably actually listened to it the most at Leashless, and it's 100% a different experience listening live. Like, I feel like it gets you you get almost hypnotized into the moment if someone really captivates you with the song. And it's like, ooh, like I think the first time I heard Marley sing, actually, I was just like, holy shit, like the things she can do with progressions and just, it's just amazing. And I feel like that's something that's going away. Even with the pandemic before that, I feel like there's a lot of everything through the phone. We're constantly in a state of distraction. So it feels like in some ways, people aren't giving enough focus to live stuff and entertainment in general.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things too. Like, I think it kind of depends what live stuff you like to go see. Like I haven't been to a hip hop, like a big hip hop concert in a while, but there's a lot of stuff going on there. It's not just like music. Mm-hmm. Like there's always people come on stage. There's like all this stuff going on. It's like going to see something at Leashless, like when you see, like go to any kind of like music open mic, there'll be like one of the best songs you've ever heard. It'll just be performed by some dude that's a plumber. Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just like, you don't know, and seeing it in that atmosphere, which is the point. Like that was kind of my whole goal, was like, let's make an atmosphere that people can listen, because it's so easy. Like I've been in a bar, me who loves music and does audio stuff constantly. I've been at bars where there's like a band playing and it's like, they're just a band at the bar. Like you're not really giving them the time of day. You're glad they're there. It's fun to have live music as opposed to like this
background music.
Yeah, but it's background music, right? And I think to like have a specific place that you can go and sit down and be quiet. And you know, I think like it's, like I said, different per type of music. Like I enjoy live streams on the computer, because if it's a songwriter, I think it's somewhat intimate. Yeah, you can kind of interact through the comments. Like a lot of them, if you're not big enough, like mid-sized songwriter, not making any money, can actually interact and answer questions over the comments. Yeah. It sounds like you're just in a room with them. Mm-hmm. But I think if you go, like I watched a bigger band doing a live stream, and just like, it just wasn't as exciting, because like they feed off the energy a lot. It's a little more of like a big concert is an interaction between the audience, where the small, like to actually listen, if you want to get like touched by a song, like a songwriter kind of song. I think like having those smaller intimate areas to do it's great, but it doesn't seem like, I feel like I've been in a couple cities where it just lacks that type of like venue, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you from experience, like going to comedy open mics and everything like that, there's some where it, like, you really, as the person hosting the event, and that's why I thought you were always so good with it, is because you were so disciplined and had everything mapped out. You took the time to, you know, like the sound always sounded great. You had the mixer right there. You knew what you were doing, and like commanding the room with, you know, the rules in the beginning. And basically you cultivated that environment where it was like people felt safe. I hate using safe spaces, words, but like you really made it without being corny of, this is a safe space, so do whatever, you know, feel safe here. You actually created an environment where people could do whatever they wanted to do. Like, I remember there was a dude, he was like blowing a flute turtle thing. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is so dope that on the same night you could hear a country song, you know, people playing the violin, people playing a flute, a crazy comedian coming through. And then you could hear someone like Marley, all in the same night, and everybody was such different walks of life. One thing I always got from Leashless was that's the kind of environment you almost need to like spark creativity in your own life. Like, you get inspired by just seeing so many different kinds of things. You're like, oh, anything's possible. You can break the rules. You can do whatever you want, man. It was a great spot.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of, I always like joke with people. It's like, yeah, you guys think I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. I get to go to like one inspirational live show a week. And I think it's, for me, like I've been to a lot of open mics, and each one has its own, I'm sure the same in comedy, and like poetry, like they all have their own kind of vibe. And it kind of depends on like, you have to set that from the beginning. Like, is this like going to be a rowdy experience? Is this a rock and roll thing? Is there a drummer? Is there a live backing crew? Is this an all acoustic thing? And in my experience, like I met a lot of my best friends in Ventura from the open mic scene. Yeah. And when I got the opportunity to host this one, I was first of all just like, I don't know if I wanted, that's a big responsibility. Yeah. But like, what am I going to do? But the thing I always wanted, I've always heard about from other, like listening to like the come up stories from other musicians. It's like, there was a place that everyone just sat down and listened. Like, and I was like, that's not really true about other open mics. Like people are kind of doing their thing. No one stayed, like, not, I won't say no one, but like, it's not really encouraged as much as it should be to stay and watch everybody. And that was like the number one thing. Like, you can come here and perform, but you should really, really think about the 45 people that watched you perform. Stay as long as you can and witness some of them, because like the point is to take away, you perform 2 songs, you listen to 30, like you're taking away way more than you're giving to this. Yeah. And like, that's kind of the point. And like, to keep it quiet and everything, there was a lot of, Alicia's had the most rules, but like it had the most loyal following, like all the other open mics. And then there's like some of those guys, like you could tell, like when you've been there enough times, like some people would come and they were not quite 100% aligned with our values, and they would do their thing and they would go on to other open mics or whatever. Yeah. And like, as an inclusive, like people pleaser, like, sure, do that. Like, do your thing. Like, this is an open mic. We're not going to say no to anybody. I don't care if you come and yell into the microphone and then just leave and don't listen to anybody. You're invited too. But I really, really, really encourage people to like come witness it, do your little thing, and just keep like observing it, because you're really taking in so much of it. And I think with the like the safe space thing, like what I really wanted is like, there's open mics for rock and roll and open mics for being drunk and open mics for old white men. It's like, how about an open mic for words? Like, like that's why I always wanted poets to come in. I love poetry, having poetry there and everything. Yeah. And I think poets don't feel welcome, even though open mics sometimes will be like, yeah, we allow poetry. But if no one's reading poetry, then nobody feels comfortable reading poetry. Yeah. So it's like, I was always like the most proud that we had like pretty consistent poetry readers. Yeah. And a somewhat diverse cast of people. Like, it's like, I think like I liked sometimes when someone would perform and other people would be uncomfortable, right? They were like, why is this person here? It's like, because that's the point of an open mic. It's an open mic. So yeah, I know I hope to get back at some point to hosting, whether it's there or anywhere. I think like it sparked something in me that was like, I think like, kind of like being a parent, where like I wouldn't perform most of those days. I wouldn't perform any songs. Yeah. And so people would come up to me. I think you said at the beginning, you didn't even know I played music. You just thought I like produced it or whatever. Yeah. People would come up to me and be like, Robert, do you perform? I was like, oh yeah, I do. That's how I got into this. You guys it's always so busy there. Like if there was extra time, I would at the end, but like it was busy. So I never did it. But yeah, I think
that's like, very selfless of you. I'll be honest, because I've been, without saying names, I've been to a couple mics and shows also where near the end, the host or, the person who wasn't performing would go and do like a 45-minute set. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm leaving. I got 5 minutes and everybody else got 5 minutes here. We stayed for the whole thing. Now you're doing 45 minutes. We're out, But
yeah, I've been to like this exactly the same. It's like, it's just, I don't need I can go play shows if I want to play shows. Yeah. And I did. The other thing that kind of gave me is like a free platform for when I did want to play. John just allowed me to kind of throw together shows as I wanted. Yeah. Which like, that was really at the end of the day, like the only thing I want is an easy place to go perform and do what I want. Yeah. Like it's kind of, there's like 2 different kinds of shows, like shows that you're just get invited to and shows that you're putting on. Yeah. It's like, I want to put on shows. Like, yeah, I'll go play shows I get invited to. Like, I don't mind doing that, but like I want to make the space and I want to invite the people and I want there to be equal men and women performing. Like, I want it to be a good place to go play. And like John was like, yeah, just go do what you want. You have that Saturday. So I'm like, cool.
That's awesome,
I think
man.
It's like he trusted me, which is ridiculous, but there was not too many bad ones. I'll say that. So yeah, I miss open mic a lot. I've been going through all the photos on my phone. I took photos every Tuesday. And so like turns out like the only photos on my phone. I just got a new one, so I was like trying to convert them over. I was like, whoa, there's a lot of open mic photos. So I should post a shared drive on Google or something so everybody can go see them.
Yeah, I would love to see those, man. And that's the thing is, like, you know, I would go to a lot of shows, a lot of mics, and that room was probably, and usually comedians aren't really welcome at music mics, dude. I've been just heckled. I've been completely silenced, like just cold shoulder, everything. But like the listening room, it really was a listening room where I realized, and that's why I always treat it with respect. And I was like, I'm never going to do anything here that they don't want, because to have an audience actually captivated rather than just on their phone, like it's priceless for an artist, man, for someone, whether you're doing music or anything. Just people's attention span. That's like the biggest thing you can give someone at a show. Yeah, and that was rare, man.
Yeah, I think for you, like I don't envy the position of being a comedian after like 5 folk singers to have to go like, that's a different vibe. And to swing that audience into laughing is like, because some people, like there be people, sometimes someone perform and be people like crying, and then it's like, okay, now we have a comedian. Okay. I'm glad you kept coming back. And we had a few other comedians over the span of the open mic. And like that, you know, I understand going into a thing and like expecting it to be one thing. And then I'm like, hey, like, can you cut that joke out?
Yeah.
And like, it's amazing how many people just were like, no. And it's like, okay,
ridiculous.
I respect the art, like do it, like, but you just can't do it here. And like, I just like, which is fine. And I don't want to like alienate anybody, but like, yeah, I love that you kept coming back, and you had new stuff too. And it's hard to perform new stuff in front of an audience of people who are not expecting comedians, right? So
yeah.
And I came to the point that like Leela loved having you there. Everyone was excited when you were there to do comedy.
I felt very welcomed. It was like, yay, I'm back.
Well, I think that what people ended up liking about the open mic is that it was variety. There was a guy playing a flute. There was someone doing poetry. Like someone would, you know, there's always someone random showing up with some weird instrument, and just different styles of everything, right? So. I think the comedy thing was like, I think I had you on when we were trying to do the digital or the online open mic. Yeah. I think I had you on one of those shows, but it's like, that's another thing that doesn't translate very well. I saw someone doing one the other day, but like, you have to be in the zone to be laughing at stand up. Like that's a specific type of feeling. And I haven't seen any, like, I feel like even if I'm watching stand up on like Netflix, I have to be like in a mood to sit down and laugh at somebody. Yeah. And it not be like a live thing. So yeah, I think, I hope all the comedian people are getting their fix, because it's got to be tough for them.
Well, they tried creating, and like that's the thing is like everybody do whatever you want to do during this time. If you want to do Zoom comedy shows, that's fine. I've been asked to do a few. I can't do it because it's just like, it's weird, because even if like right now I was trying to tell jokes and I could just see a bunch of little boxes of people who are muted going, it's not the same at all. And like, you need the vibe, you need the energy.
It's an interaction, right? It's a conversation between the audience, right? That's what I was saying about the like bigger, like a rock band or something. Like it's all about like this energy that you're passing back and forth, and it's just building and building. I think there's something a little bit different about being able to go on something and sing a few songs. And like there's an attention span to that, right? Like I'm not going to have a 2-hour concert on Zoom. Yeah. But like if I can go on and sing 3 songs, Marley sings 3 songs, Paul sings 3 songs, you know, some of the open mic people join that, right? And it's like my grandma loves watching.
Really?
Yeah, like so my family's never they've seen me now, but like for a while my family's had never seen me perform. So I didn't perform when I was living in Kansas City. So like they all live far away. So like they would just like, and I wasn't doing live streams. So like for them, like they've seen me more performing in the last year on live streams than they ever seen in my whole life. Yeah, which is a weird thing, right? But that's the one thing about live streams that's really nice, is I can reach more people, the people who actually like the real people who want to listen to me and my family. But yeah, I agree with that. Like that energy thing of going back and forth, like that is how comedy works, and that's how like some live shows you have to have that. And like ending a joke or a song and just looking at your computer screen and seeing yourself being like, "Thank you," it's like so awkward.
It's just different. You got to do it completely different, because you can't have pauses like as if there was a laugh there, because then it's just silent dead air, which is like the equivalent of bombing or a joke not doing well. So automatically you're set up to fail, I think, in that format. But
and it's emotional, right? Like it's an emotional thing to go on stage. Like in the performance, you're like, that worked. Yes, I'm psyched. That didn't work. Oh no, I'm gonna die. And that's like in the span of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, if there's no one there to give you a reaction, you're just dying the whole time.
Yeah, dude. It's honestly though, like there's nothing like performing live. I'm sure it's the same with music, but it's like those butterflies you get right before. It's just,
it's addicting. Yeah.
It's nothing like it, man. It is really addicting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love seeing, people. That's why open mics are cool, is because you get to see people in their early stage of like, it might be their first time ever performing, and you get to see all that physical, you can see the nervousness. And I don't know why I relish in it, because I feel like it's a rite of passage of people. If you're going to perform, if you want to call yourself an artist and live performer, you got to walk the gauntlet. And to see someone when they're going through those nerves, and then to see the relief after, you're like, aren't you glad you walked through and now you're done? Like, you know. And
it feels good. I remember going to, I did my first open mic in Ventura at Sandbox. And like a lot of those people that are at that open mic, I'm friends with now. Like they would come to my open mic and everything, right? And that was like a 3 or 4 year process of getting to that. But it was like, I was so nervous. And it's like it's like a silly thing, but like, that's just, you were. And now I've performed hundreds of times, and it becomes like, I still get nervous, but it's more of like this excited, like anxiousness as opposed to just like pure fear. You gotta work through that. It's like it is kind of a rite of passage. Or I think it makes you better at it, I think, you know? So. Oh,
definitely.
And it's fun to see people like someone will walk up there and you're like, who is this person? They're like, I've never been to an open mic. My dad brought me here. I can't drink. I'm 17. Like, cool. And they just kill it. And you're like, whoa, wait, where did you come from? Like, it's like the best part about open mics to me, and like how it's like an essential part of like the music industry as a whole, is like, there's people who just are operating normally in society, just like you see them every day at the store or wherever. And then they'll show up at an open mic and just like drop the greatest thing you've ever heard. Mm-hmm. And you're like, you just been living your whole life with that song in your back pocket, and you just showed up one day, age 60, and just dropped it on us. Like, that's incredible, right? Like if that was a song that like Merle Haggard sang, it'd probably be famous, but like you just don't have other songs, right? That's just your one thing. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I like. It's like, you don't have to, there's like a thing in like, as you get big in music, and like, you can like popular music forever, but you have to have like a string of success to be popular and to have albums and everything. There's nothing wrong with writing 1 to 10 fantastic songs over an entire life, or jokes, right? Like maybe you can't be like some famous comedian, but if you have like 3 or 4 jokes, you can kind of live off that for a good amount of time and like
be the funniest person at the barbecue, you know?
Exactly, right? Like there's success to be had there, and like in smaller, like I think it's the way people look at like being successful. Like, and this took me a little while to realize, but like if I didn't write a song the rest of my life, I wrote some cool songs. Like, what? That's great. Like I can sing those songs to my kids, my grandkids, and my nieces and nephews, and like whoever wants to hear them for the rest of my life at campfires and whatever. It's like, what's a cool thing? Like, I don't have to be famous or make money on that. Like, that's a crazy thing. Like, I just kind of made these things up. And it's like, I don't know. That's kind of a fun thing.
That is such an important point. And I think that's what I also liked a lot about Leashless. I keep going back to Leashless because it's just, it really is a special thing, because I do see the value of every single person in society that has a creative, desire, or, I feel like most people could just benefit from doing music, as, in the end, for the people who do pursue it, with you with music and me with comedy and everything, it is therapy. It is something that you have to do, and I think that's something that people don't realize, is like, you don't have to just do it if you're going to do it this is going to be my career. I'm going to be this famous musician. And it's like, you see the flip side too much. You see people being like, I want to be famous, so I'm going to have music or comedy be the vehicle that gets me there. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I think everyone could benefit, where it's like, I'm going to learn how to play an instrument and express myself, because that's going to de-stress me. That's going to make my life a little bit easier. And I'm going to it's the same thing as like writing a journal or poetry, is like, you're just working out the things in your mind, and there's so many benefits to that.
Yeah. And I think my college roommate, like we were freshman roommates or whatever, like random selection. He was like, I had a guitar in the room, obviously. And so I was like teaching him like a few chords. Yeah. And I was like, man, if you learn 4 chords, like you can play a lot of songs. Like, I'll teach you how to capo up. You just can only play in G, and then play some songs, right? And so he like loved Motown. So he just learned a bunch of Motown songs. And I was like, that's how easy it is. Like you can become your own, like if you like singing, just learn how to play 3 chords and you can perform, right? Like,
yeah,
not like there is something like therapeutic about it. I think I don't know anybody who like doesn't like, I guess if you didn't like it, you probably wouldn't do it in front of people, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's and it's encouraging, right? If people if people say like, this happened to you, like if you're a comedian, like, I wish I could do that. It's like, yeah, you just make it up. I just made it up. Like, granted, I've been doing it for 10 years and like, I'm better at it now than I was. Like, you should hear the songs when I'm 18. Like, they are horrendous. They're the worst.
Probably make you sweat. And you're just like, oh, I can't listen to this.
It's just bad. It's like, I didn't even have the influence I had. Like, I've listened to so much stuff since then that like influences what I play. And I couldn't like play guitar very well. I just play chords. Like now I can finger pick. Like I'm so much better at it now. And I can play with other people. And it's like, it's some of that's like, pick up a guitar and just play some chords. You don't have to sing, and play with your friend. And it's something like there's this collaboration part of it that's just like, to me, like pure joy.
Yeah.
And like, that's why people just join bands with their friends. Like, it's like, what? It's just fun that way. So yeah, I think I try to encourage it. That's just like a creative thing, whatever it is. And also I like if someone would have ever come to open mic with like a painting, like, yes, I just want to like show people this creative stuff, because everybody can do that. Like, I don't care if you come up to open mic and just like I said, scream, like, sure. Like it's a little bizarre, a little off the beaten path, but like maybe this isn't your right outlet, but like, if
you'll find it.
Yeah. Just like let this be the path to like your creative awakening. Like, I think everybody can do something, and it takes time. Like, this is a hobby. So like, if you have a lot of other hobbies, like maybe you don't have time to do something creative, but yeah, it's, I think like, comedy is kind of a scary one, I would say. I don't know. How did you get into comedy?
I guess humor has always been a thing for me, where I would just always liked making people laugh. Like once I started doing comedy, I was like, oh, I kind of always have had this kind of thing. But I just really wanted to do, I wanted to do it for so long, but didn't want to tell people I wanted to do it. And then, but kind of like you were saying, where it's like, oh, I can never do that, blah, 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 is like, everybody starts terrible at everything they do.
Yeah.
I like blacked out the first time I did comedy. I like don't really remember it. And I just remember the moment as if it was like Polaroids taken, of just like looking down at the crowd and everything, and just being like completely so much stage fright and everything. And I remember some of the jokes, but like it just, I think I've always been drawn to creative things, and, I went to nursing school and everything. So it's like going down a completely different path, but I was like miserable in that world, where it's just like, I don't know. You start breaking down the world and what you want to do with it to what you enjoy the most. And it's like, I love creating things. I love making people laugh. Like, I look at it as in like the best comments and the things I've ever gotten is when people are just like, that, gave me a laugh and I needed that so much,
Yeah.
That's like, it doesn't get better than that, So it's like, you get so much reward from doing it. So like, I think it's just something that matched up completely for me, and been in love ever since.
I feel that. Yeah. And I feel like I can't say this for sure, but I've like succeeded at various things in my life on like different levels. And if I play a song and someone's like, hey man, like I have some friends that are like, some of my songs are some of their favorite songs. And it's like, what else do I need to do in my life? Like, I'm done, right? Like, I did it. Like, if I was Bob Dylan, I'm sure it would feel a little bit different, but like, we're doing the same thing, just on a completely different, like, pay scale.
Yeah.
If one person loves one song I wrote, like, I just feel like that should be enough.
Yeah.
Like, I'll keep writing, right? I think my main goal in songwriting is to write a song that basically other people play it and they pass it down, and eventually they just forgot who wrote it, and I die. And then they're like, who wrote this song? I don't know. Baba Black Sheep. Who wrote that? It's like all these folk songs, there's hundreds of thousands of them. Like, nobody knows who wrote them because they just kind of got passed down and forgotten. It's like, that's the dream, right? Like, that is all I want to do. And every time I write a song, I'm like, maybe this is the one.
Yeah.
But like, and it probably won't happen, but like, I don't need, like, it's nice to be at a point where like, I don't need to like go play shows to make money. Like, I have a job.
Yeah.
Like I can go play shows for fun. I can do it for free.
Yeah.
And like, that's a good place to be. Like we were talking about things being like, if you want to be a professional musician or you want to make money doing things, totally different grind. I think that's what's kind of freed me to like enjoy like the last few years of like being able to host stuff and perform and everything. It's like people apologize for not being able to pay sometimes. It's like, man, like that's the dirty secret. Like all of us would do this for free.
Yeah.
It is when you do pay us, we enjoy it. But like, like all the creative people being like doing all the live streams, like that's creative people are still being creative right now. Like they're still hosting things. They're having shows. I'm going to an online folk music conference next week.
Wow.
And like Margaret Atwood is like speaking, like, it's like, I'm going to be on Zoom. Yeah. It's like, these things are still happening and it's just free because like they know no one will pay for it. But it's like the dirty secret of our creativity is that everyone's still going to be doing the things they do. You're just not paying them anymore.
Yeah.
So hopefully all those people who make their livings doing it can actually get paid in the second half of this year, maybe. Because they're struggling right now. But like, yeah, for me, it's like, that's kind of a, like, I've enjoyed seeing like the resilience of a lot of artists in the past year.
It is something that's crazy is that a lot of these art forms completely went away. Like stand-up is one of them where it's like, it's completely live. So much so where if like, I don't know when it's going to come back in California near the capacity that it was. I mean, I've talked about this on the podcast, but my fiance and I are moving to Austin next month.
Oh, and, nice. That's exciting, man.
Yeah. And it's just, I love doing stand-up so much. And it's like that. I think that's where the next big like comedy scene is going to be. I don't know if you follow Joe Rogan or not.
I don't directly. I know who he is, I guess.
Yeah. The Fear Factor guy.
Fear Factor guy, of course. Austin's a million people, right? There's gotta be something going on there.
Yeah. There's like he moved there and he's starting his own scene with comedy and everything. And it's like they're already up doing live shows everywhere in Austin. And there's a huge music scene. And I feel like there's just the creative juices there, man. I'm excited to dive in.
Austin's supposed to be like just like alive with energy. It's also like the University of Texas is a big school too. So there's it's a big, like a lot of college young people. You think about some of these, like you look back in time and see like when things were happening, like there was a point, you know, Nashville's always off and on with like certain music things being hot. But like New York had like in the early 2000s with all those like indie bands. Mm-hmm. If you just happened to be there at that time, like whether you got to be the Strokes or not, like something was like alive there. And yeah, I hope you get to be a part of something like that. That would be,
thanks, man.
Just super like life changing, right? Like
I'm hoping
at least to witness it.
Yeah, at least I'm on the outside watching it all happen. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. You guys go ahead. There is something to that, man, of just being in the area when it happens. And I don't know. I think it was something for me where I was just like, this is something that I think happens with a lot of people during this pandemic. And I hope it's happening with people is where they just start getting their priorities lined up. You start taking away a lot of these daily distractions, even if they were good distractions, like, you know, going to the gym or, you know, going and performing. You kind of get time to sit back and they're like, well, what makes me happy? What do I enjoy doing? And I think for a lot of people, they were like, why am I working this bullshit job that doesn't give me any fulfillment? I don't know, making harmonicas. I'm going to start doing that and figure out an exit strategy out of this, you know, life that I don't enjoy. And I hope that's happening with Lo.
Yeah, and it takes some like confidence to do that. So yeah, I'm not gonna say I didn't like hate what I was doing necessarily, but like, you know, the company I work for now is just like better for me, like long term. And there's like, it was very scary to move away, but you know, in reality, like it's not a bad decision. It's like I have to travel back and forth to see the people that I'm not quarantining with anybody up here. So it's like, I'm just alone all the time. Yeah. And there's nothing to do, no performances. Like people will be like, you like San Jose? Like, I literally don't know. It's fun to bike around in, like, I guess.
It's a cool area.
I have no idea. Like, I don't know. I couldn't even name a concert venue here. And that's like my number one hobby is going to see live music. So it's a weird time to kind of change scenes, I guess. But yeah, I think I know several people who have moved in the last year, that are about your and my age that like are going like, I don't know if they had the realization, like I can't say I had a realization, but like just kind of like, you know what, we need a change of scenes. Like I need to come up here and pay off my student loans was kind of my main focus. And just like kind of just readjust what I'm doing. And then afterwards, you know, if I want to go back there, I want to go back to wherever I can move. So yeah, Austin's fun. I think I have some friends that live in Austin and a lot of the songwriters I know live in Austin. It's a good, as someone who's obsessed with songwriters, it's pretty much like Austin and Nashville. So
who are your favorite songwriters?
So I'm going to split them into two groups. There's
you've had this question before.
Yeah, it's a tough question because people will be like, oh, do you love Bob Dylan? It's like, of course. Yeah. Bob Dylan is literally Shakespeare of our age. Yeah. Like when Bob Dylan performs in Santa Barbara and people are like, I don't know, he's kind of old. It's like, if Shakespeare was reciting poetry or whatever in the ocean, we would all paddle out there and listen to him, right? Like, because he's Shakespeare. Yeah. And I will just defend that again. Like, Bob Dylan is still great. Like, he wrote an album last year that was fantastic. It came out in June. Like, and it's kind of this, to me, I feel like I haven't seen Bob Dylan this year, and that's a sad thing. That's what kind of one of the things pandemic took away from me. But
you've seen him perform live?
Like 10 or 15 times probably. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a don't miss for me.
Wow.
Yeah. I skipped one of my other favorite songwriters to see Bob Dylan last time. And it was like a songwriter in a small room in like an old Adobe in Santa Barbara, or Bob Dylan, who I've seen a bunch of times. And it was like, this is a tough decision, but Bob Dylan is 75 or 80 or however old he is. I can't see this 35-year-old guy.
Wow.
But yeah, I think so. Like Bob Dylan and like Leonard Cohen, and John Prine's like one of my favorite of all time. That was a really hard, I don't think I've ever felt like a musician's death like I felt John Prine dying, like early pandemic. And then another musician that died during pandemic, Justin Townes Earl, who's only like 38. And so he's kind of on that younger songwriter side. So Joe Pug is one of my favorite young songwriters. He does a podcast that interviews other songwriters too. That kind of like just listening to what his podcast is like. How are all these like musicians that don't make a ton of money but live on the road, surviving during the pandemic? And it's like, you can't tour. So a lot of them are starting podcasts and trying to get sponsorships that way, doing live streams and asking for Venmo money. Patreon's a big one. Like most of the musicians are like have Patreons now. So I try to do, like, I've bought some albums from some of them just to try to, like, I would have spent thousands of dollars otherwise seeing music. So no, I think, awesome. Joe Pug lived in Nashville. I think Gillian Welch is probably my all-time favorite in that little generation. So I don't know. I think I could go on for like an hour of who my favorite songwriters are.
Did Bob Dylan, he sang Hurricane, right?
Yeah.
Here comes the story of the hurricane. It's one of my favorite songs of all time.
It's like, it's the first song on that album too. It's like one of the greatest like intro songs. It's just like a banger of a song.
Oh yeah.
No, Bob Dylan is just he would have been the greatest if he stopped like in 1965 and he just like kept going and going and going. So I think that's kind of the I feel like I've had this conversation with people. They're like, I don't know, given whatever type of music, like they're like, I just don't like any modern of the kind of music I like. Like I like metal, but I only like 90s metal. And it's like, man, thank God that I don't feel like that. Like I can discover new songwriters every month and just, it's like, there's just people who write songs. Like the songwriting concept to me is just like, everyone's doing it and I can just go find new people. Like it's not like, even if it sounds different than the way they used to, like I haven't ever been burnt out by it. And that's like a very fortunate, because like if I only liked My Chemical Romance, I don't know who I'd listen to anymore. Just still My Chemical Romance, which is fine. I do like My Chemical Romance, and I still do sometimes listen to My Chemical Romance. But like as far as like I can like Bob Dylan and 60 years later, like like some other small songwriter, right? It's like I think that's a nice thing. So my list of favorites is growing. I'll say that.
I need to get involved in more niche music, more songwriters, because I've ran into a wall because my favorite genre is hip hop and like old school, like Tupac, everything like that. And the genre has changed so much with what is mainstream and everything that like, I can't even listen. I'll put on like a top hits of the day playlist on Spotify. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I can't listen to any of this music. I don't know any of it.
Yeah. Hip hop. I feel like I never super into hip hop, but I do like the narrative nature of some like older hip hop songs, which is why I like songwriting. It's like, it's a story. And, and I think like I have like friends and cousins and stuff that like hip hop. And it's like, what I don't enjoy about it is that it's all about like the line instead of like the bigger picture. And it's like
bars, as the kids
say. Right?
Bars.
Yeah. Like Lil Wayne, fine. Be who you are. But like, he has great like two liners, right? Two great bars. But like the whole song, he just like made it up when he walked into the studio, right? It's like, as good as he is, it can kind of be all over the place. And like, it's just, I feel like there's every once in a while you hear like a hip hop song and it's just like has like a story. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's fucking great. Yeah. But then you'll like, sometimes I'll hear a hip hop song too and be like, I like hip hop. And like, I love seeing rappers with live bands. It's like one of my favorite live performances, right? It's incredible to see a drummer with someone who's rapping. Yeah. It's the best thing. But I'll hear a song and be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know, Lil Oot Burzy. Like whatever. Like, I just don't, I can't quite. So I do try though. I do every once in a while throw on some, my cousins will recommend it to me. They're like, hey, do you like I like Action Bronson. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, and he, like my cousin was like, he should listen to Action Bronson. You'd like him. And I was like, okay, yeah. I've seen his like, he's a show on TV that's like him cooking or eating or something. And I was like, oh yeah, this is actually tight. So it's like there is like random hip hop things that I'll get recommended. I'm like, oh, that is cool. But sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I just can't, it's just not like, I don't know. Who knows? It's not folk music. So I just can't, I struggle sometimes with it. You might like Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City. I own the album. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cause I was thinking that's a very storyteller album throughout the whole thing. J. Cole has some albums like that, mixtapes like that. There definitely is something like that. I appreciate the wordplay because I think that's a whole different area of hip hop is wordplay. And it's impressive. Yeah, like some of the stuff that Eminem comes up with they're basically at the end of the day they're puns. They're basically almost puns, you know. And like Lil Wayne is one of my favorite, but his older stuff. But he just went to there's something that happens, and maybe you can speak on this of maybe artists in general. They get to a point where because they are who they are, they're able to pull off lines that if some unknown rapper or musician said them, it wouldn't be that impressive. But it's only impressive because it came out of their mouth. And they've like got to a point where they're like the effort has gone down. Like Lil Wayne will say something like, I got my grandma on speed dial, call that Instagram. And it's just like, come on, man. Like something about graham crackers. Like you didn't put much effort into that. But like, do you see that with artists that you like where you're like, oh, there was no emotion in that. You're just going through the process. I do think there's just some like later albums of artists that, I think early on, like there is something to prove. Also, a lot of times you're not really writing for like the industry. Who's listening? Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's like it's a different thing. Like, and there's also something about the creativity when people are like 25 and younger. Like how many first albums did people put out when they were 20 that are just like game stoppers? And it's like, why is that? I don't know, but there's something special about that first album and that like you hear that for the first time and it's like, and it's hard for people to change. Like Rise Against is one of my favorite bands like of all time. Like when I was in like high school, and I'll still like, happily if I'm on a road trip, put in a Rise Against CD. Yeah. But like new Rise Against songs just sound like old Rise Against songs. And it's like, that's just not what I listen to anymore. And so I think some of it's like either the band changes and you want it to be the same or they're the same. And you're like, well, you haven't really developed it all. Yeah. And it's like, it's a no-win situation, but like, I think it's tough. And like, it gets competitive, right? Then like, let's say Lil Wayne, like he has a style, but his style was like in 2008. So like now when he has to come out and there's all the other songs on the radio or whatever, it's like, does it just sound off because it's in the context of like a bunch of other things that are just different? Yeah. I think that's hard. And like hip hop being kind of like a young art form, like it's people writing songs. Game. Yeah. Like I'll sing songs that are written hundreds of years ago. That's not that's an old thing. Yeah. And some of the hip hop stuff, like it has changed so much and you hear something from 10 years ago and you think, wow, I didn't think it changed that much, but really it's different, right? Even from that early Kendrick Lamar stuff, it sounds different than that now. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's hard to keep, I don't envy having a ton of fans that you have to keep satisfied. It's a business at that point, right? Like you can't just not produce content. Like, and I think that's, that it's gotta be tough, but the hip hop stuff, I do love when like, it's the creativity of it's just like it's a creative medium, right? People are just out there just like saying ridiculous things. It's not just like, wow, that is like a genius like line. Like it's just so bizarre and so clever. And I think what like old people don't understand about it is that like, oh no, this is funny. Like you're supposed to think Instagram thing is funny.
Yeah.
And they just like over their head. So
yeah, the shock value of a lot of it. That is interesting because hip hop of any genre is kind of changing with the times. It's always whatever is the most relevant. And it's almost like so much stuff, at least with fame, it feels like it's getting younger and younger to the point where now it's like, we have TikTok and it's like, it's just kids. And then now, you know, like the age of like hip hop artists, like back in the 70s and the 80s, it was all dudes like in their 30s and 40s who were like actually from the streets. And like, you know, now it's like kids who are 14 and, you know, have no life experience. I think that's what's the biggest thing for me with it, of like, I can't listen to this. Like some kid who's 14 isn't going to tell me about all his money and how he's living his life. I'm like, you haven't lived life, you know, which is probably why you like songwriters so much. Cause I feel like songwriters are usually a little older and they like have more life experience.
And I think the thing with like in song and like folk songwriting, like the point of the song is it's supposed to be somewhat like relatable, like as like a ageless thing. Like that's kind of like the best songs, like I'll Fly Away, like the famous folk song. It's like in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. It's like just about like what's that about? Nobody really knows, but it's a beautifully written song. It's just like about like are you a bird? And in the morning you're gonna fly away. Like I think like it's kind of open-ended, but also specific enough that you can kind of relate to it. And I like, especially as like at this point middle class like white guy, like
middle class white guy.
Like there is a lot of it that I don't relate to, right? Which is I think it's interesting, especially like which makes you hesitant to say things like I do like Macklemore because his songs are narrative. I like narrative rap, and Macklemore is a narrative rapper.
Yeah. But
also it's just more relatable to me. Like going to the thrift store, that is straight up what I do.
That's so funny.
And I think like it's a weird thing. And he has a whole song about like one of those, like it's like called White Privilege or something. And it's like about how he is the comfortable rapper for parents to let their kids listen to because he's white. And it's like, whoa, yeah, that for sure. 100%. Like if my parents had to pick a rapper that I could listen to, if they knew who Macklemore was, they'd be like, yeah, that guy.
The
like,
thrift store rapper. Yeah.
He's rapping about thrift store and his uncle getting married to a man. Like, of course, like that's to middle-class white people, very relatable. But yeah, I think some of the, except of people being 14, you know, it's not believable at that point. You have to believe the artist when they're performing, but it also moves so fast. I think like in my opinion on TikTok stuff, I think it's fascinatingly creative. Like I don't understand it. I don't have one, but I'll get a video every once in a while. And it's like, I don't understand what's happening on it, but everything churns so fast that like you could be popular today and just have like nothing going on tomorrow. Yeah. And I think like shifting from like artists in this like 70s and 60s and 50s and like as everything's becoming shorter and shorter of like people to the top. And I think that's tough. Like it's not a very sustainable thing to be like really famous for like years and years and years. Like it's a really hard thing to do. The more and more like, you know, there's not all these artists who have like 20-year careers. It's like, you know, God bless the Old Town Road guy, but like, he'll just be in the news because he was the Old Town Road guy. Even like, I have no idea. Maybe he's good. I have no idea. But like, there's just so much stuff with like having the internet connected to the art form and the popularity is like, they're two different things, but like we discuss it a lot of times, like they're the same. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's a popular artist. It's like, oh, are they popular? They're just like on a video right now.
Yeah.
You know, or they performed wherever, you know, so.
And it's like fame is different because we do have so many outlets and so many different platforms and things going on in so many different veins. Like everything's been niched down where there's someone that could have 5 million followers that you never even knew existed. You didn't even know that world existed.
YouTubers for me.
Yeah.
Someone was telling me about these, they sound like an old man.
These YouTubers.
The Paul brothers, the ones that box.
Yeah.
Or they're YouTubers now, they box.
Yeah.
Like I like had no idea. I was like, who are these guys that keep boxing like famous people? And someone was like, oh, those are YouTubers. It's like, oh. Yeah. So it's like, but like what, they're just like random dudes boxing people on YouTube. Like I like, it's not Kimbo Slice. So I can't relate. Right? Like I don't understand it anymore. So yeah, I think things just happen. Like those guys got famous, really famous. And the one guy's boxing Floyd Mayweather. And I didn't even know who he was. And I'm pretty in tune with like, I'm not a hermit.
Yeah.
So I think there's just so many avenues to get famous now that like, cool. Like everybody should take advantage, I guess, while you're doing it. But you know, it's hard to say like, like if someone was like, hey, how famous is Jake Paul? Like five famous. I have no idea.
Yeah, he might be at a 9. Actually, they're pretty famous.
They're pretty famous.
Yeah. What do you think about? Because I always want to talk to people who are in music about this, and like the Motown days with the way they did record label, and everybody got a deal, and it was like the 360 deal. Do you think? Let me see, how am I gonna word this? Do you think that method helped expose a lot of the great music, or do you think it hurt it? Like, do you like that old method of like, do you think music was better back then when it was only a select few of people competing for record labels that had to go through a pipeline to get exposed? Or do you think it's better now with such a wide variety of music and the barrier to entry is so small to where it almost feels like oversaturation?
Yeah, like, I would say it's definitely oversaturation is a good way to describe it, but at the same time, it's accessible. Like I can record an album today and have it on Spotify next week.
Yeah.
It's something kind of like, I think Spotify for a while had their arm out about that. Like you have to go through a service or whatever, because it'll just become like YouTube or like MySpace music or whatever. But like, why not? Like if I record music, what makes me not an artist? So like, I think, especially, I think it's okay, especially if people are creating their own content, like anything original. If you can put it out in the world and people are going to connect to it, cat me on now.
I was like, well, your cat's like, are you almost done? We're almost done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's like, I'm trying to eat right now. I think like if anything original content, like if you can create something like on your own and put it out there and it like connect with people and get successful to some degree, like I don't think anybody can ever say anything about that. Right. Like you built that up by yourself. But, I think with a lot of the stuff was happening, it happens now with like pop music a lot and country music is like the way like this stuff is created. And I think like country music, modern country music, it is very loyal to its stars.
Yeah.
Like they maintain their fame for years. Right.
Yeah.
And it's because like they write a couple songs on the album and they pick up other songs that were written. And like gonna get their name on it, but like they didn't really write it, and a lot of that money doesn't end up going to them anyway. But it's like that's kind of how Motown was. There's like some songwriters and like pretty much they're just giving songs to anybody to perform. They're like, oh, you're great, like you're the Jackson 5, like here's a bunch of great songs. So well, they're gonna be successful, right? Like that's exactly how like people get famous. Like well, they just gave them all the music. Like I'm not gonna criticize Michael Jackson because I think Thriller is a very like crazy album, but like some of those guys back then, like they were great singers, but like they weren't writing the songs or coming up with any of the melody or anything like that. Like there was people behind the scenes doing that. So I think like in modern time, if I can create something and put it online myself, like that can't be ever criticized. It's what's complicated. Like I think what people were exposed to was different back then because it was only the good stuff. You have to filter through all this bad TikToks, I guess. Yeah. But that's me now. I only get the good TikToks because I'm not on TikTok. So by the time it gets to me, it's like very
curated.
Yeah. So, but like, I think, in a lot of types of music, it's like, there's difference between like the creators and the people performing, and there's like overlap, right? There's like writers, performers, and there's people in the middle that do both. Yeah. So if you're ever in the middle, like no one can ever criticize you for getting whatever you do out there in any way. And that's like on any art form. But at the same time, I think like the one thing that's weird now because no one buys music or anything, is that like, if I wrote a song and I gave it to somebody to perform on their album and then they go out and tour it, but nobody buys the album, they make 0.006% a stream on Spotify. Like I just don't end up making that much money. And I created the song that they're touring on and being really famous on. Yeah. And like the music rules like aren't written. They're written like for like being 100 years ago when you wrote sheet music. I think some of that, like, and music being the only context I'm most familiar with, like some of that, we get some cat action. Hey. I think some of that, like it's hard for me. There we go.
The cat is walking in front of the screen, ladies and gentlemen.
Classic. It's a classic.
That's actually an interesting point because I actually hadn't even thought about that. I always knew, about songwriters who sell their songs or, give them to artists and they make a percentage of it. They don't make anything off the touring because they can't really measure it, huh?
They can't. So they used to make plenty of money because you sold CDs to fund your touring, but now you tour to fund your CDs or your albums or whatever. And so it's a different business model. So they need to adjust how they're paying these songwriters. But so for example, not to be controversial, Morgan Wallen, who just got famous for saying the N-word when he was drunk, he's like the biggest thing in country music right now. And he still has a bunch of album sales. So one of the most famous song on that album was written by Jason Isbell, who's like the biggest thing in alternative country music, like not famous country music. And it's like Jason Isbell is going to donate all of those like funds to the NAACP or something to kind of like counteract this dude being potentially questionable. But like, it's just not going to be that much money. Like, it's not like he's making, like Morgan Wallen's going to be able to tour on that song for the rest of his career. Yeah. And make all this money. Right. And it's like, I also, and so that kind of I think what you're kind of asking is like, but I can still put stuff on Spotify. And as a modern artist, like I can't be salty about the old ways. Like, I have to, like, if I can put something on the internet and get it exposed, like if it was the 1970s, like I wouldn't have an album on Spotify. Yeah. Like I would just be hosting open mics or whatever. Right. And like trying to get on the local radio station. Like that's how it would be working. And so like I feel like it enables a lot of people to like be able to do stuff, right? My grandma can hear my music, all these people can hear it. But I think the way like on the like money side of it, like and I think someone's trying like to rewrite some of the rules to be like, all right, if you wrote something, you're actually creative, like you're the creator, not the performer. Like let's try to get you a little bigger chunk of it, because at this point, a lot of the people who write like in Nashville are starting to perform their own songs. Chris Stapleton. Because like they can make way more money doing it. Yeah. It's a more lively business. So like, like I was saying about country music, like they're loyal to people. They'll keep, Morgan Wallen won't go away just because he did a bad thing. Like in pop music, they would just be like, hey, next, like we're done. Yeah. Like I thought Lorde was fun. That album was great. Where is she? And she's not famous anymore because pop music just didn't keep her. Yeah. Like pop music is so fickle about like who they maintain. And it's like, that's respectful about like country music. It's like, they're like, hey, Blake Shelton, we're still going to play your new songs, even though you're 45. Like, can you name a 45-year-old pop singer that's on the radio currently with a new song? No. They don't exist, huh? No, they just like, they're probably playing the Ventura County Fair. Like, but like, it's just not as sustainable in like the kind of like pop music thing. And I think there's like, that's kind of like your question is kind of like, that's kind of two answers, but like, it depends which context you look at it in a modern way.
You're going to insult someone who's listening to this that has on their vision board to play at the Ventura County Fair.
Hey, I've joked before. If I could play at the Ventura County Fair, that'd be sick, but I'm not, who was there? The Plain White Tees played there. Like I think the last time they had
Hey there, Delilah. Don't you?
I was there specifically. I owned that album. I was like in 7th grade when that album came out, and I went to that concert for sure. I like those, but that's who plays it. That's a different like tour scene, right? There's people who like make money, or even like the concerts in your car thing that Ventura was doing. A cool idea. Love that you can do concerts in your car. My complaint though is that like all the bands they got were like the Beach Boys, who don't even have Brian Wilson. They're just the other Beach Boys, and it's like they don't need money. Like, why are we giving money to those guys to sit in our car and watch? But if it was me performing, no one would go. So it's like, but who's making the money? People who already have money? It's like a complicated thing. Yeah. So I think there's a specific market for that kind of music, right? Those are the same bands that would play at the fair. Yeah. And they're not, might not be playing Santa Barbara Bowl, but they're still performing. So it's not like people who are 40 and were pop stars 20 years ago don't like make a living. Yeah. But it's just different, right? It's not as a sustainable thing. Yeah. So I think some of that, like with the accessibility, becomes like you find Billie Eilish, who is great. That her album is like, it's going to change the direction of pop music is going, kind of like Lady Gaga did 15 years ago. But like, I hope they stay somewhat loyal to her, because like they vaulted her to fame at age like 18, 17. And then like, I just hope they don't hang her out to dry. Yeah. Because like her second album isn't as good as the first or whatever. Right. It's like, it's a fickle thing. So, I hope everybody is as much success as they want, but sustainable success, I think, would be better for most people. So,
oh yeah, and healthier. There's not that propulsion to fame that Billie Eilish got, and then if that thing just shoots down, like,
yeah, exactly, right. And
it's not like, healthy.
No, and I think that's some of the stuff about in the 70s, like what Motown did was they were being loyal to their artist, right? They're like, hey, you had, you know, we did this song for you a few years ago. Here's another one. Like in a couple of years, it'll be a single. Like it's consistent income, right? And like if you get credit on a lot of those songs, this was happening back then with the fake credit. Like Elvis is like credited on a bunch of songwriting things.
Yeah, he didn't really write.
He didn't write them. Like he just paid someone enough money to put his name on it.
Yeah.
And they at the time took the $2,000 and were like, sweet. But it's like, no, that's like that's a really famous song. They still play in commercials and like you can make money doing that. So it's always been like there's always kind of like a blackness to it. But yeah, I think I at the same time, I love that everybody can just put music on Spotify. That's fun.
Yeah.
And I love that TikTok is like sea shanties are trendy right now because people on TikTok decided they were going to be trendy. There's something like for the people about that it's like, you know what?
What
like,
are sea shanties?
So like kind of like Irish folk ballads. A lot of times Scottish folk ballads. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like trending in the last month or so, like because people on TikTok are just singing old sea shanties.
Wow.
And it's like, what a weird thing. Right. And it's like that or people on Reddit doing whatever they want. It's like, there's something kind of fun in like for the people about like how accessible like stock markets and music and whatever is. But at some point, like it does become saturated and you're like, well, I can't be as funny as an 18-year-old with TikTok.
Yeah.
Who does the same type of like big mouth TikTok over and over again. And then it's like, well, I don't know if theoretically those people make money, but like,
oh yeah,
it's like a lot, right? They make like kind of a lot of money
if they're able to monetize it. But yeah, no, I think it's great. And that's always been my thing is, I've always been about independence and artists having control over their stuff, because there's a lot of terrible stories about the music industry of artists just getting shelved and they're just completely controlled by their record label. They're not making any money. They, signed a shitty deal because they were a broke artist that got sold the pipe dream.
No, it still happens, right? Like Taylor Swift's making those redoing albums. Or that guy that, I don't know if you're a sports guy, but that Tatis guy, I don't know how to say his name. Tatis, I think, in baseball, he signed like a $340 million contract, like a 15-year contract, like really great. But when he was like a minor leaguer, because he was like broke, he like signed some deal with some funky like agent that like the agent gets 50% of every contract the rest of his life or something. Don't quote me on the actual like numbers, but something like the agent for no reason just made like millions of dollars. And it's like, that's just sad. Like, it's not how things should go.
Yeah.
But that happened with music too. And it still kind of happens. So yeah, I think I agree with that. Like if I can be my own, like if I can do all my own things, perfect. Like that's the dream, right? Owning your own masters, doing all this stuff where like I'm constantly making the money on it until the day I don't want to. And if I'm famous, I sell it. If not, then it just fades away into oblivion.
And there's less people you have to pay. And so like, you don't have to be as big, because like that was also the thing with like one of the things about Macklemore, one of the things about Mac Miller, these independent artists that made it mainstream, but they maintain that independent artist route is like, Drake sells 1 million records, his first week, he's getting 0.09 of a cent on every album sell, when someone like Macklemore or Mac Miller would sell 100,000 their first week, but they're making like $7 on their album.
Oh, they figured out the system, right? It doesn't matter with that point. And that's kind of where we're going back to, like, if I sing a song and one person likes it, like, do they need 8 million people to like the song? What if 1 million like it and they make just as much money? Like, is it just as satisfying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think it's at that point you're trying to sustain some type of career too. So yeah, I think I love that. I think I flew the interview recently with some guy from like the punk scene in the 90s that they were like doing their own records then, like spinning. That was like a punk thing, I guess, in the 80s and 90s, was like to spin your own records and create your own labels, because like no one wanted to sign punk artists.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was so like before the curve. Like no one was doing that in the 80s. But I guess like in the punk scene, like in New York, they were like, yeah, we've owned a record label since forever. We just like did it all ourselves. So we made way more money that like they didn't make a lot of money, but they could sustain what they were doing.
Yeah.
Which I think for someone like you and me, like that's the point. Like I make enough money doing music stuff that I don't spend my engineering money on music equipment.
Yeah.
Like I bought this with music money, like my guitar with music money, and I just paid off my student loans with engineering money, and it's separate. It's like two different things. Yeah. So like whatever level of comfort you want with that, as long as you can do that, then I think, like you don't have advertising on your podcast, right? Like you're not
yet, baby.
Promoting
not
anything.
yet.
So like, and then when you do, it's like, it's going to sustain, it's like, that's to sustain all the things you've done for the podcast so far. It's right. You're not like, you're trying to like sell the world or anything. Right.
Yeah. There's something about authenticity with that when, you know, people are selling advertising and everything. But like, I think with the record label route and even just that kind of agency kind of thing is, I think the worst thing that can happen to a creative person is someone tells you what your song should be about, what you need to be careful, and you should touch on this. Let's try to, this is more of your demographic. We need to start producing for this and that, like that. And it's like, you get so many uncreative people in the process. It's just going to sound bland like everything else that's out there. You know?
Well, I think that, which is kind of, that's why, you know, I don't, not to criticize any music, but like, there's a reason that like rap sounds like each other and pop music sounds like each other and folk sounds like each other. It's like people are always going to kind of take it and do what they want. But it becomes a point where like a pop country song just sounds like a pop song. It's like, okay, you're just trying to be catchy at this point. Like, let's not creative at all. Yeah. So it's just like a Billie Eilish thing. Like that album is so unique. It doesn't sound like anything else that's on the radio.
Yeah.
Whether, I don't know, I can't speak to like things that aren't famous because I don't listen to that kind of music necessarily, but like cool. Like everything's going to try to sound like that now. Everything's going to have that, like, it's like where the chorus, instead of being faster and louder, is like has less momentum to it. That's like what Billie Eilish sounds like. And there's songs on the radio right now that are copying that they're doing that same thing, right? And it's like, that's what happens is people just start, it's like, oh, you're an artist, you have some fans, sing this song because like it's going to get you, like this is how you're going to sustain your career. And it's like, you can tell it's like not authentic sometimes, or, you know, and
it's like the boy band era, man. The one boy band made it and they're like, copy that formula. Print it out, every single ethnicity, we got it.
Even though the Mumford & Sons era, where like everybody wanted to be a folk singer, and it was like, we can't just be Philip. Like it just sounds like no, I'm not a folk singer like Mumford & Sons. Like that's not how it works. You know, like we're playing the same chords and like I have a banjo, but like besides that, like those guys that like they got kind of sold out on that, which is unfortunate because like they're fine musicians. They just like got blown up, and then they were never going to live up to that because that music is not pop music. It's like folky. So yeah, I don't envy, like, I don't expect to ever be in the pop world, or any like fame at all.
Fast forward 10 years and you're going to be a pop star.
Yeah. I feel like, someone's gonna be like, I'm playing Robert Quindaro's song, which would be tight. Like that's what I want. It's like, go play the song. Like that's the point, but or I'll be, who knows? I'll probably accidentally become famous.
That's the thing, man. If you want fame too much, it's not going to happen. If you're just like, nah, I don't want to be famous. Everybody's like, I want you to be famous.
I'm starting to be, the older I get, the more attuned to like everyone's like small scale, like one moment of fame. Like someone recently, like that I kind of know, like made a Facebook post, and the Facebook post was shared like millions of times. And I was like, dang, I've never done anything that was shared a million times.
Yeah.
Or 1,000 times. Right. Like, and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's like their one thing, right? Like the thing they did that like actually resonated with enough people that it propagated the strange algorithms of social media.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? You know, you never know you're going to be funny. Or like the lawyer that was a cat, like,
yeah,
like that dude was like on the radio the other day.
It's so crazy.
The woman who made God bless NPR, they interviewed the woman who made the mittens for Bernie Sanders. Because of course NPR would find her in Vermont and interview her.
The internet's wild.
It is wild. It's like, she's not famous for anything she did beyond a normal thing, knitting mittens for people at her school. But the mittens got to Bernie Sanders that was like years ago. Years later, he's at the inauguration. Now he's a meme, the biggest meme this year. What a silly world. Like, you just never know.
I want to talk to the person at NPR was like, you know who we need to get this week? Not Bernie Sanders. Let's get the lady who made his mittens. Let's talk to her. Like, what's the story? So how did you make these mittens? You know, like, it
was so, I once I heard that, I was like, oh, that's like the most NPR thing ever. Like, let's get the real scoop here.
Yeah. We can't get Bernie Sanders, but we can get the lady who made his mittens.
Yeah, call her up right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
Well, Robert, thank you for coming on the podcast. We almost did. We're getting close to an hour and 45 minutes. I know your cat.
That's a big dog.
Starving.
Yeah, he's itching for some attention.
I was excited to do this podcast, man. We've talked just at open mics and across Instagram randomly. You're a very profound person. You have some wise words. I've always appreciated what you do with Leashless and what you created there. And I'm sure whether you go back to Ventura or stay in San Jose, you're going to cultivate another listening room, and maybe one day I'll come drop in.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Yeah. Enjoy Austin. That sounds really fun.
Thanks, man. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find Robert's music at robertquindaro.com. He's on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram music. Also, you can go to your stories and add him, and YouTube as well. Thank you for being here, Robert.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Enjoyed it a lot.